Now to start with, I want to teach you a number of different things about the hunting niche today. First off, I'm going to start with teaching you how to effectively use some of the content that's included in Azon Hunt Commander Dynasty, and then I will be continuing on with some training on the hunting industry itself, which will also include some of my personal recommendations for targeting this particular niche. So to start out with, the Azon Hunt Commander Dynasty product has 5 different parts for you to download. This is what the download page will look like. Here are the 5 different parts that you download. Just click on each one and get them all saved to your computer. The first part of this includes the entire content package except for the review videos. The review videos are going to be contained in the other 4 parts. Now in the main package you have keyword data, exact match domain data, hunting articles, banner graphics that you can use, and then you have a pretty large folder worth of bonuses as well. Now in the 4 video packages, each of these contains videos for a specific hunting subniche. So you can choose from these available videos depending on what you decide to target to figure out what's going to work the best for you. Now, I couldn't resist myself here. I was looking around for some hunting pictures to include and saw a picture of a hawk's funning hares. So I simply had to put that on there instead of a normal serious hunting picture. I thought that was pretty hilarious. So getting down to the serious stuff, my general usage recommendations for this particular package. Number 1, choose a specific subniche or even an individual product to target. And then what you want to do is build an entire website that is centered around that selection, whatever it may be. Number 2, if the competition is too high, you can simply narrow your focus down to a specific need, purpose, or skill level perhaps. Nearly all sub-niches can be divided up this way. And then number 3, combine content from the package and your own unique content to make a complete site. You don't really want to solely rely upon the niche pack to do all of the work for you. While you could do something like that, the best results will simply be obtained by trying to get a little bit creative with it. So next up, I want to go through a number of the main areas of this content package and give you my recommendations for using each of them. So to start out with, we have the keyword data. You have 4 different lists of keyword data, and each of these lists is going to be broken up into 4 groups: amazing, great, good, and bad. Simply use these lists to find the phrases that you can target on specific pages of your site, or you can even use these keywords on other websites, like if you're setting up Facebook pages or Squidoo lenses, for example. Also, do not focus solely on keyword quality. Well, I think a lot of people will simply jump straight to the list of amazing keywords and just try to go for perhaps the best looking one out of all those keywords. Instead, rely upon keyword relevance instead. Consider that the number 1 importance, and then make quality number 2. Yes, Keith, I am recording this webinar, and all attendees will receive a permanent access to that replay, which will be sent out to you sometime later this evening. So using this example over here, You're quite welcome, Keith. Obviously, this is not relational to the hunting niche, but when you break down any given niche into sub-niches, you can continue to break down that even more into more specific topics until you essentially come out with a hierarchy structure for your entire website. This is really how I build almost any website that I put together. And you can do this same type of thing using these keyword lists that are available for you in this package. But again, rely upon relevance to get these sorted out in a manner that's actually going to make sense on your site first, and then worry about whether those are quality keywords or not that can actually bring in traffic for you. I have not intended on making an ebook, Brenda. I could at least put these slides together in an ebook at the very least, though, just so you could quickly flip back through them. You're welcome. Next up, the exact match domain name data. This information is all compiled into a single list. Now, out of everything that is included in this particular package, this might be one of the least important items, simply because exact match domain names are not as important as they once were. However, I still like to use this information and also the keyword information to try to come up with a branded domain name for a lot of the sites that I build. But I want those branded domain names to be based upon some type of keyword phrase relevant to my niche that is also receiving decent search engine traffic. So if you would like to go after an exact match domain name, look through the list of domains that are available there. Try to find something highly relational to your niche selection that also has 500 plus searches and an available .com domain. I typically do not try to go for other top-level domains like .net or .org, for example. I typically just stick to the .com domains. So if you can't find an appropriate domain name in this list, don't worry about it. Try this particular strategy instead. Pick your best and most relevant phrase from the keyword data, and then create a unique domain name using one or more words from that phrase, with an exact match not being necessary here. So let's say, for example, you wanted to build a website centered around duck calls. Chances are duckcalls.com is probably not available, but if you think you would have a good shot at ranking on the first page for this particular phrase, what you can do instead is try to convert that into some type of branded domain name. Now, these are just a couple of examples that I came up with pretty quickly off the top of my head, where I'm either taking a word from this particular phrase and transferring it to my new branded domain name, or I'm using a very, very close variation of it, like turning duck into ducks, for example. And then the other keywords that I'm using here that are not relational to this phrase for this first branded domain, quack calls. Obviously, I'm not using the exact phrase duck calls, but quack is the sound that a duck makes. And when you're making a call, obviously that's kind of relational. So I thought this could be a really easy example, especially throughout this entire niche here, where you're making perhaps a call-based website in some instances at least. You can use this same type of example, but potentially for other animals. You can also change that around and use the other word from the keyword phrase, like duck. I changed this into listen up ducks, where again it's about duck calls, and the domain name itself kind of keys you into that, but it's a little bit more of a creative combination to create these. And again, you don't have to stick to this exact format here. You could do something completely random and just add in your own name to it. For example, ryansduckcalls.com. Moving on, I want to talk about the hunting articles. There are actually two different groups of hunting articles included in this package. You have the main articles, which are 20 new hunting articles that have been created just for this package. But then in the All Bonuses folder, you also have an additional 130 articles included there, and those are PLR articles, which will already exist somewhere out there on the internet, but regardless, those are still useful articles that you should be able to apply in one way or another to the site that you're creating. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about using these articles. Mike even has some specific recommendations for you in the main PDF guidebook of this package, but I wanted to give you some of my own recommendations as well. You could obviously use these articles as they are and just simply create a page on your site and plop one of those articles on it. You could also spin those articles using software that will simply rearrange parts of it, change some of the words in it, and try to turn it into a unique article. Personally, I'm not a big fan of article spinning. I think that the articles produced by that kind of software ends up being difficult to read and understand, and while it may do the purpose of creating a unique content article that can help to bring in search engine traffic, I don't think it's really that useful of an article to your website visitors. So a lot of times what I will do, and you don't have to do this for every article, but at least some of them, go through and try manually spinning the content within them, where you simply read through the article and rehash it into your own words. This is really a great way that you can both learn about a new niche and also get new articles for that niche that you can use on your website at the same time. Because as you're going through and reading them and turning that into your own words, that information is all sinking into your brain and really helps you to be able to better target the niche as a result. You can also carefully select relevant articles that will help to add useful information to the site that you're building. You don't simply want to go through and try to pile all 150 of these articles on a website just to have a lot of content. You're going to be better off if you try to pick and choose the ones that are actually relevant to what you're trying to target and use those either directly or spin them perhaps. And I even have some other tips here with you as well. You can do things like trying to match the articles with different keyword phrases that might be in the keyword data, and or you can match them up with specific videos. The videos are about particular products, but obviously that product relates to a certain topic within this niche. So if you can find a video that relates with an article and also goes along with a keyword phrase, you can kind of combine this content into one single page on your site, and ultimately you're ending up with something different from what everybody else out there is going to have. You can also mix and match these articles on similar subjects to create in-depth pages on your site. So instead of just taking one article that is relational to whatever you're targeting, try to find a couple of them that are similar that could all be combined into one super page, essentially, and create some really in-depth topic pages for your website this way. This will be different from simply using the articles as they are, and will help you to get some decent rankings without having to kill yourself with a lot of work. You can also take these articles and combine them into ebooks that you could then give away to build up newsletter subscribers, for example. If you have any worry whatsoever about using content on your website that's possibly going to be used on other websites as well, this is one way that you can take advantage of this content, these articles, and not have to worry about that whatsoever, because this ebook content would not be part of your public site that gets indexed by Google. This would be information that people obtain by joining a newsletter list of yours. I also encourage you to try to use your content in creative ways. You could, instead of posting them on your own website, you could use them for social network postings. It doesn't even have to be the entire article. You could simply pick and choose perhaps a paragraph from a particular article and use that as a posting for Facebook on your fan page, for example. You could also use the transcripts for tutorial videos. If you have an article that is essentially teaching you how to do something, if you have knowledge about creating your own videos, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You could simply be browsing a web page, put together a simple little slideshow of pictures, and then just simply speak the article out loud and record it as a video. And it's really a minor amount of work to create something completely unique that other people out there simply will not have. And then you can take those videos and do whatever you want to with them, because they are your own creation. You could take them to places like YouTube then, for example, and use them there. Next up, we have graphics. There are a total of 13 graphics included with this particular package. You have most trusted retailer banners, where it says Amazon.com, most trusted retailer, and you have some different sizes for these banners, so you could use them in the header of your site, the footer of your site, or even in the sidebar if you want to. I'll often take one of the smaller squared banners that they have and plop that over in the sidebar of a site. And then I will go into the All Bonuses folder. They have headers and footers there that you can actually customize. Now, ordinarily you would need Photoshop to be able to edit the PSD files to be able to modify these graphics. However, there is a tutorial included for a GIMP video course, and this is basically just a free version of Photoshop, and it will teach you how you can use that to modify these graphics for use on your own website. So the header banner can be really useful for pretty much any site. You can simply upload this into WordPress after you have modified it to include the name of your own website, and simply use that as the header graphics, so you don't have to just use plain text up there, or so you don't have to hire somebody to create a logo for you. Now, the infographic that is included is really pretty cool. Infographics, if you don't already know something about them, they can be utilized in a number of different ways, and this course actually includes bonus material that will teach you how you can go about marketing with infographics. So basically what you want to do is take this infographic and you want to edit it to include the name of your own website. And while you could simply publish it as it is, another option is to try to customize it to be highly relational to your own selection for whatever you're trying to target on your site. If you're going after a particular sub-niche or a specific purpose, try to find some facts and data surrounding that and just compile that into this infographic. And then use the course included in the bonuses here to distribute that infographic on these directory sites. And other websites can actually start using your infographic and then send traffic to your site as a result. There are 3 ebooks in this package. I briefly mentioned one of them earlier, the introductory ebook. It includes Mike's recommendations for using the material in this particular course. You'll find a number of different good suggestions there that I have not covered in this particular class because I simply didn't want to be repeating information that he already has available there for you. So I would at least recommend to take a look through that ebook if you have not done so already. Now the other 2 ebooks are in the bonuses folder. These ebooks are for you to use on your own site. Earlier, how I was talking about how you can take articles from this package and compile them into your own ebooks that you could then use to build newsletter subscribers. These 2 ebooks are essentially for that purpose and already built for you. But you could still try to create some of your own unique ebooks that are not going to be the exact same ones that a lot of other people will be using for this particular niche. So simply offer these ebooks as a free gift to get people to join a newsletter of yours. You could also use it in combination with a Facebook fan page. Set up a fan page tab where you get people to like on your page, and then you give them a free gift for doing so. This is something that you can use in that particular example. Next up, we have the videos. There are a lot of different videos in this particular package. You actually get 60 product review videos. But the most important thing to remember here is that you can't upload these videos to places like YouTube or even Vimeo. These places have pretty strict rules when it comes to video uploading, to the point where they simply won't allow you to have these videos up there. With YouTube, they're not going to allow you to have the same video on multiple user accounts, so obviously you couldn't have hundreds of different affiliates that have this particular package being able to upload all these videos to their separate accounts. YouTube simply won't allow that, and you can actually get in trouble for doing so. With Vimeo, they're not very friendly with affiliates. They also require you to have actually created the videos that you're uploading. They have some exceptions to that, but it's actually with an upgraded account where you have to pay $60 a year to be able to use that service. And for these types of purposes, I don't really think that that's necessarily worth it, especially not when you're first getting started, for example. So what I recommend instead for using these videos is one of 2 options. You could simply self-host them. These videos are not very large in size, so you could simply put them on your website and use basic HTML code. You can just Google HTML code to play a video file and find that kind of information pretty easily. It's not very difficult to do, and just simply stream them straight off of your own server. Now, if you're self-hosting, you have to be careful that you're simply not using up too much bandwidth for whatever your hosting account may be. If you're on a shared hosting account, for example, and you start to bog down the server, they'll simply suspend your sites until you can resolve the problem. So you obviously don't want something like that to happen. But I think in a lot of cases with these Amazon affiliate sites, unless you're getting hundreds of visitors on your site every day, that's probably not going to be something that you really ever have to worry about. So at least when you're first getting started, that is definitely a viable option to use. You can also try hosting these videos with other providers that are less picky than YouTube and Vimeo. Dailymotion.com is one of them. They do not monitor their video uploads, and they actually don't have any blatant rules that prohibit things like this. So what I would actually recommend to do is try uploading them to Dailymotion or even to other sites. There's a lot of other ones out there for video hosting. Just read through their terms of service first and perhaps create a new account for use with these videos, just to be on the safe side in case they're not allowed there and your account gets banned. You know, it's no big deal if you didn't have that account in use any other way. So you can upload them privately, especially on dailymotion.com, and simply embed them into a page on your website, kind of like you would do through YouTube. Now, this won't attract search engine traffic for you through the video itself on Dailymotion, for example, but it keeps it on your website so you can give your website visitors something useful, and you can actually include your affiliate links really easily alongside those videos for the relevant product that it is promoting. So now I want to move on to talk about the hunting niche in general, to give you a bit of an industry overview and also to give you some of my personal recommendations for targeting this particular niche. Now, one of the most important things to remember is that hunting is typically regulated, but the laws can vary from one country to the next, and it can even vary depending on the type of game that is being hunted. So you have to keep that in mind when you're building your websites. Who exactly are you trying to attract to your website, and what are the laws and regulations that they are bound by? Because you simply don't want to be recommending things to them that might contradict those laws and regulations, and also you don't want to try to be putting forth a lot of work and effort to sell products to them that perhaps they may never be able to use, at least not in the country that you're trying to target. So in the USA, which would likely be the common country that a lot of Amazon affiliates will be targeting here, state law actually regulates hunting, with the exception of some federal laws that do things like exempting Native Americans, Native Alaskans from some of these regulations, and then you have some other laws that protect things like migratory birds and endangered species. But beyond these federal laws, everything else is regulated on a state-by-state basis. So you should always consider that when you're trying to build your website. Figure out if you're targeting a particular type of game. figure out where that game can be hunted, what the laws and regulations are in those areas. Now, these regulations can obviously limit the overall business for the niche because they will limit the number of hunting licenses they provide to people that are interested in hunting for a particular type of game based on whatever their surveys have come up with that says how many of that type of animal can be hunted that year. Beyond this, though, even though it can limit the overall business of the niche in a way, it can actually be pretty useful for affiliates because it gives you a unique perspective to use to target the niche. Both beginners and even your more experienced hunters that might be looking to try out a new type of game, they will all be seeking information related to the laws and regulations for hunting in their area, and they're especially going to be doing this before they actually get to the point where they're going to be buying products for that type of hunting. So I see this as a great opportunity to try to offer some of that relevant information for whatever you're trying to target. Look up what some of the laws are. Find out what states actually hunt that game, and specifically try to go after those people and those particular purposes to bring them into your site. Next up, within this particular package, you have the 4 main sub-niches that have been selected. You can honestly find a bunch of different ways that you can target any one of these 4 sub-niches. So you don't have to just go after hunting optics or hunting decoys. You can narrow down your focus even more, and this will help you to attract traffic to your site a lot easier. It will help you to reduce the amount of work that you have to do because you won't have to cover information on everything. And it can also help you when it comes to simply referring sales and keeping people interested in your website, because they won't have to hunt through a bunch of stuff to try to find the information they really want. So what I recommend to do is consider the main niches: hunting optics, decoys, cameras, and calls, but think about them narrowed down to a specific aspect, like a particular hunting method, a particular hunter skill level, a certain game category or a specific type of game, the time of year, perhaps even the location, since you have state laws regulating a lot of this type of stuff. You also have hunting purposes. Some people hunt for sport, for trophies. Some people hunt for food. Some people hunt for cultural, traditional type of reasons. You can actually take multiple purposes from this little list that I just went over with you and combine it with one of these niches to come up with a highly focused sub-niche that you can target with an entire website. Just as one wild example, small game calls for beginner hunters. I have taken a particular niche, the hunting calls. I have combined it with a particular game category, small game, and I have also combined it with a particular hunter skill level, beginner hunters. And again, I could potentially come up with hundreds of different combinations here just for the call niche by mixing and matching different aspects and purposes for these niches here. Now, when it comes to game that is hunted, it can vary obviously from one country to the next because you're going to have different kinds of animals living there. So I highly, highly recommend that you do some research into the area that you're trying to target and specifically into the type of game that you're trying to target as well, if that's what you're going after. Because the information can be completely different concerning one type of game than it is a completely different one. So in the USA, at least, these are the main types of game and also the game categories that are hunted and regulated. So these particular phrases here, big game, small game, fur bearers, predators, etc., you will have people searching for information on these topics on the internet. They might be looking for, laws and regulations type of information. They might be looking for specific types of hunting equipment related to some of these topics. So I at least wanted to do some of the research for you and provide you with an actual list that you can use of the different categories and also some of the main types of game that are included within these categories. You can target a particular game category, or you could even try to go after a specific type of game instead. It all just kind of depends on what niche you're choosing and what products you decide you're going to be promoting in that niche. The next thing I want to talk about here is hunting methods. There are actually a lot of different ways that people go about hunting, and there's different terminology that is associated with some of these different methods. Now, not all of these methods are essentially accepted hunting methods. There are some here that are highly criticized by the general hunting community, especially within the United States. And I'll get to talking about that here a little bit later before the end of today's class. So what you can do is, again, use this information as a way that you can go about targeting some of these niches with a little bit more precision. Within any given niche, you might have a number of different methods that are used by different kinds of hunters. So instead of simply trying to give them general information on everything, you could go for one very specific type of hunting method. Baiting, for example, uses decoys, lures, scents, or food to attract the animal. Blind hunting or stand hunting is hunting from a hidden or an elevated position. You can kind of picture too, as I'm going through these hunting methods, that each hunting method is going to require its own equipment that may be completely different from equipment used with other hunting methods. So this not only gives you a way that you can narrow down your focus, but it can also actually help you with picking out the best things to promote to people. With stand hunting, for example, you obviously have not only your normal hunting type of gear, but you would also have things like tree stands that get included in cases like that. Calling, using animal noises to attract or drive game. You have a lot of calls that have been reviewed as part of this particular package. But again, calling is not necessarily something that is just done on its own. People combine the calling method with one or maybe even multiple other methods to bring the entire hunt together. Obviously, it's not going to do you any good to just attract in the animals if you have no other equipment, no way to actually in the hunt. So you might have people that are using baiting and calling and stand hunting and camouflage all together, perhaps. With camouflage, you obviously have not only visual concealment, but you also have odor concealment, pretty big in the hunting industry. They have all kinds of odor-related products to either help you conceal your own smell or perhaps to make you smell like something else, like perhaps the prey of what you're trying to hunt, or to make you smell like the prey itself. You also have dogs that are used, and again, you would have different types of equipment associated with this type of hunting. Dogs are often used to flush, herd, drive, track, point out, pursue, or retrieve prey. You also have driving, which is herding of animals in a direction, often toward another hunter. Flushing is scaring animals from concealed areas. They'll make a lot of loud noises. Dogs actually are used in combination with flushing and maybe even calling or baiting as well for things like duck hunting, for example. Now there's another page here of even more hunting methods to talk about. Glassing is using optics, like binoculars, for example, to find animals. You have one of the 4 sub-niches in this particular package covers glassing. You also have internet hunting. This is pretty new, but it's actually really, really highly criticized, especially in the USA. And I will be talking about this in a little bit more detail later on before the end of the class. But basically, with internet hunting, you actually have webcams and remotely controlled guns, and believe it or not, people are sitting at their computers hunting real animals, which I think is pretty ridiculous. Next up, you have netting, where people use nets. It could just simply be throwing nets or setting up nets to trap animals. It could also be active netting, using things like cannon or rocket nets to trap the animal that you're going after. You also have spotlighting, using artificial light to either find or blind the animals. This is often done at night and is actually, while it sounds pretty simple, it's typically also a criticized hunting method. Stalking or still hunting is simply walking quietly in search of animals, being stealthy to pursue them. You also have tracking, where you're using physical evidence to try to pursue animals. A lot of information is centered around tracking and will be very relevant to not necessarily every hunting sub-niche, but a lot of them tracking is relevant. And so you can do things like include books or potentially even digital training products that could be promoted for subjects like tracking, for example, to help train people how to actually do that. You also have trapping, using devices like snares, pits, and deadfalls to capture. Now, what I was talking about before, how you have certain hunting methods that are actually criticized by the hunting community in general. This again can vary from country to country, from state to state, depending on the type of game being hunted perhaps. So again, it is very, very important to understand exactly who you're going to be targeting with your niche to make sure that you are addressing the laws and regulations and maybe even simply the preferences of the majority of hunters in that particular niche. One of these things in particular that I wanted to talk to you about involves the USA. It's part of American hunting tradition, something called fair chase, where basically this is meant to be a balance between the hunter and the hunted, to the point where the hunter is not supposed to successfully end a hunt every single time out. In fact, they're only supposed to occasionally succeed, and in fact the hunted is supposed to get away the majority of the time under fair chase. So since a lot of affiliates are going to be targeting USA hunting niches, I thought it was really important that you actually understand this concept of fair chase, because if you're trying to promote some of the more new age products that do not fall in line with this particular tradition, then you may simply be harming yourself before you really even get started, in terms of you might be trying to push sales on products that ultimately the people that could use that product, they aren't really interested in it, and this could be the big reason why. So the actual rules of what defines a fair chase can really, again, vary not just from perhaps one country to the next, but even within the USA it could vary from one organization to the next. But here are at least some general hunting practices and methods that are considered to violate this fair chase principle. So you would not want to be promoting something or providing information for hunting in any of these areas. I believe that these are going to be the most important things to avoid in the hunting niche. First of all, naturally trapped animals. They're trapped in snow, water, ice, pinned down by a tree, a rock, whatever the case may be. It's not considered a fair chase when the animal has no chance of escape. You also have hunting from or herding with power vehicles. Obviously, using something like an ATV with a group of people and they're all herding animals together or chasing them down to simply shoot them directly from the power vehicle, it's pretty easy to overpower the animal that way, because obviously the power vehicle is going to be faster than them. So this is also considered to violate the fair chase principle. Another hunting method that I was talking about briefly earlier, night spotlighting, where you're taking extremely bright floodlights, for example, and shining them up into the woods, and you're looking for that reflection of the animal's eyes off of the light. And people actually use that to locate the animals and then just simply shoot them where they are while they have them spotlighted. Because number one, they're kind of temporarily blinded by the light, and number two, they're also not scared off by it. They don't instinctively interpret the light as danger or prey or anything, so they essentially just freeze in place, and this again doesn't make for a very fair chase. Also, hunting with tranquilizers, poisons, or hunting in escape-proof enclosures is also not considered fair chase. Dealing with more new age technology, it is also really not accepted to use a lot of this new technology with hunting because it simply gives the hunter an unfair advantage over the hunted. Using electronic devices for attracting, locating, or pursuing game, it could even be electronic devices perhaps like attached to a bow and arrow that might be targeting guidance, for example, is also not considered acceptable under the fair chase principle. So again, I thought this information was really important for you guys to have, because if you're going after any of this stuff, you can not only receive potentially some backlash if you're involved in social networking and one of these niches that relates to one of these practices, but you could simply also find yourself only going after a minority of hunters who are basically doing things outside of the law and under the radar. While there are plenty of those people, your best success will simply be to stick to the way things have traditionally been done and the way that they are accepted. Now, I wanted to give you guys some really useful information that can help to guide you to some of the best niches that you can go after. And I'm especially referring to ways that you can narrow down the 4 main niches from this particular package into something highly focused, but something that will still leave you with a lot of potential customers out there. One of the easiest ways that you can do that is by using real statistical information. Now, with the hunting niche, while it could be considered a drawback or a negative thing for this industry to be so highly regulated in the USA, for example, on another hand, this tight regulation is actually really beneficial for affiliates because the government has information out there available for you that you can actually use and obtain completely free. And this information is going to help you to not only figure out the best niches that you can go after within the hunting niche, but it can also help you to figure out specific demographics that you can use to target the people that are most likely going to be interested in what you're doing. This is especially relevant if you end up doing things like using Facebook advertising, perhaps to build a fan page for you. You obviously want people to be liking on your fan page that are most likely going to be potential customers for the products that you're promoting. Well, one of the easiest ways that you can do that and spend the least amount of money possible while getting the most effective loyal readers is simply to use information that really can't be disputed. Now, one of the main things that I wanted to review here with you are the most popular animals hunted in the USA, and this is based on a number of hunters. So these are actual U.S. citizens that hunt specific types of prey within this country. And this is based on 2011 statistical information, which is actually the most recent information that they currently make available on this. So with that said, deer is the #1 hunted game in the USA. And in fact, it's perhaps 3 times more popular than anything else out there. Now you also have to consider this is only going to be legal hunting. There are still going to be plenty of people who will go out there and hunt things illegally, who simply don't obtain a license to actually go out and hunt something. However, these numbers should still be pretty accurate in terms of the overall popularity of these different types of game, simply because if you're going to have people illegally hunting one type of game, you're likely going to have people illegally hunting all the other types of game as well, so all the numbers could technically be increased. Certain types of game, like squirrel, might be more common to be illegally hunted than things like deer, because obviously the game is a lot smaller and the firepower required is going to be a lot less. A lot of people will simply hunt squirrel in the woods out back of their house with perhaps a gun that they bought at a local Walmart, maybe even a pellet gun or something, while obviously that's simply not going to be possible for hunting deer. So with that said, there are nearly 11 million deer hunters. These are licensed deer hunters in the U.S. just for that particular year. So this is a lot of potential customers. And even when you get into some of the less popular types of game, you're still at 500,000 or more hunters that are interested in any one of these. Wild turkey has over 3 million. Squirrel has over 1.5 million, as does rabbit. Pheasant, duck, dove, all over 1 million hunters as well. Elk, quail, prairie chicken, goose, bear, these are all under 1 million, but still above 500,000 hunters. So I would consider any one of these to potentially be a good possible niche that you can target. However, up here at the top, anything over 1 million, these are obviously going to be the most popular and may give you the best chances of success. Now, even though I've presented this information to you right here, there's honestly tons more information that the U.S. government makes available for hunting, and this also applies to fishing as well. So I've included this address for you, http www.census.gov/prod/www/fishing.html. In case you would like to go ahead and take a look at this page, I will add the link in here for you guys into the text box. This particular page, if you look over on the far right-hand column of the table that is there, that is the column for the 2011 statistics, and they even provide in some of the other columns previous years, but obviously I would use the most recently available data. Now there's not only data there for the entire country as a whole, but there's also individual reports there for each of the different states throughout the country. So you can use this resource to find out exactly what people are hunting and where they are hunting them. Not only that, but it'll also give you demographic information. It'll tell you what their education level is, what their income level is, what their age groups are, whether they're male or female. It breaks it down into a lot of really great demographical, statistical type of information for you to use. So pretty much no matter what you're doing in hunting or even in potentially a fishing related niche, you can find that information right on this web page right here. So I highly, highly recommend to take some time and to try to browse through some of those reports and find some information that directly relates to whatever it is that you're trying to target in this particular niche. Now, if anybody has any questions for me, I